Spoilers ahead! Has the first episode of the Disney Plus series She-Hulk Attorney at Law finally fully and officially introduced into the MCU none other than Roxxon Corporation, a cutthroat and oftentimes downright villainous entity that doesn't just have a strong Marvel comic book tie to She-Hulk, but also to Daredevil as well? And wait, is there another, more complicated connection between Roxxon and Iron Man that forecasts something huge that will be going down in the multiverse saga involving this fallen Avenger? We're going to talk about all of that right now. Welcome back to the Mama Saga, where this Marvel-loving mama is a mother and lawyer by day, but breaks down comic book sagas, movies, and shows like She-Hulk by night. Make sure you subscribe to this channel because we're going to do live after party live streams following each episode of She-Hulk Attorney at Law when they drop. Alright, so I argue that already in She-Hulk episode 1, we've had the big Roxxon reveal. Now, if you don't count the stinger mid-credit scene where revelation about Captain America's virginity is had, in the final scenes of episode 1, She-Hulk Attorney at Law, we have the courtroom closing arguments being made by both sides. Jennifer Walters representing one side, the plaintiff, and another attorney who is from Goodman, Lieber, Kurtzberg, and Holloway. They're representing the defendant. Holden Holloway is sitting down watching his fellow associate make his closing argument, but he's also watching Jennifer with interest. She's impressing him, even as She-Hulk, and eventually Mr. Holloway is gonna hire Jennifer to work for him and his firm. Now, the unnamed associate does not mention the name of his client. He does say the following: "You'll see that my client was well within his right to protect his business interest. These accidental deaths were an unfortunate byproduct of an ambitious expansion." And to me, it sounds like GLK&H is defending the interests of none other than Roxxon Corporation, which makes sense for it to do so in the MCU since Jennifer has had professional connections with the company in the She-Hulk Marvel comic book saga. So this all ties in very nicely, her comic book past with Roxxon into her MCU present involving it. Now, if you know anything about Roxxon Corporation in the overall Marvel comic book saga, it is a very shady entity. It used to be called Roxxon Oil Corporation, then it was Roxxon Energy Corporation, and no matter what, it was always doing something nefarious behind the scenes. It should also be noted that in the Marvel comic book saga, Roxxon has had offices in both New York and Los Angeles, California. Oh, how convenient, right? So close to the law offices of GLK&H, so close to the Supermax prison where the Abomination and other powerful criminals are held. Proximity is everything here. I cover the Los Angeles versus the comic book law office coverage for Holloway's firm in a recent video of mine. Attorney reacts to She-Hulk trailer GLK&H commercial, and it actually lays down a roadmap for where Jennifer Walters' career will take her in the MCU. So if you missed that video, you definitely want to watch it. Marvel has typically depicted the executives of this company as doing whatever it takes to make a profit, whether we're talking about illegal activity, immoral activity, or unethical activity, even violent activity. Now, in the Marvel comic book saga, Roxxon has been infiltrated by the Hand, a sworn enemy of Daredevil. Oh man, to me, this is how Jennifer Walters and Matthew Murdock cross one another in the courtroom and outside of it in the She-Hulk series. I just know it. One of Matt Murdock's first cases involved Roxxon, where he and Foggy Nelson represented a Roxxon employee who was stricken with cancer after working at one of Roxxon's plants. Now here comes the She-Hulk Roxxon Connection. In the Marvel comic book saga, specifically Savage She-Hulk Volume 5, which was published in 1980, Jennifer Walters represented the interests of Roxxon, whose oil is disappearing from their West Coast refineries, and no one knows why. Both the federal government and the petroleum market overall was putting pressure on Roxxon because of all of this disappearing oil, especially during an oil shortage. And no matter who stands guard or what they do, the oil continues to disappear from Roxxon. She-Hulk ultimately pieces together that the Silver Serpent is to blame. It's a mining machine made of stolen Stark technology that was created by villain Nick Trask. Now, Trask is stealing the oil by having the Silver Serpent burrow under the refinery tanks and draining them from beneath. Trask wants to drain Roxxon of all of its oil so that he can drive it into bankruptcy, then pretend he's discovered a new source of oil himself, causing Trask to corner the oil market. But of course, She-Hulk conquers both the Silver Serpent and Nick Trask, and her client Roxxon is super happy with her at the end of the day. What's the point of the She-Hulk Roxxon connection in the Disney Plus series? Well, like I said before, Roxxon might be the tie that binds She-Hulk with Daredevil, where Matt Murdock takes to litigating against Roxxon, while She-Hulk is ultimately hired by Holden Holloway to defend its interests. Also, there's a connection to Iron Man several times over. So in the MCU, we had Roxxon Easter eggs, like in the original Iron Man movie, where there was a billboard in the vicinity of Iron Man and Ironmonger's final battle, bearing the Roxxon Corporation logo. In Iron Man 2, Roxxon was the sponsor of a Formula One car in the Grand Prix. In Iron Man 3, the faux Mandarin pretended to execute a Roxxon accountant on live television. Then you had the Roxcart Easter egg in an episode of Loki Season 1, which is part of the multiverse saga. And if you've seen my recent video, Iron Man returning thanks to She-Hulk, you should definitely check it out. After watching this video, you'll see why Roxxon Easter eggs are such a big deal when it comes to Tony Stark, for sure. I don't want to spoil it here, but I think She-Hulk is setting up way more than another Sicarian-based storyline for the Hulk himself. That's all I'll say in this video when it comes to Iron Man. Ultimately, I think that Jennifer Walters, aka She-Hulk, is most definitely going to do work for Roxxon in the MCU, as she did in the Marvel comic book saga. But that's going to cause her a lot of heartache as she does so, trust me. And it's not just because it's going to cause her to tangle with Matt Murdock in the courtroom and Daredevil outside of it. I think the first episode of the Disney Plus She-Hulk series has finally officially dealt Roxxon into the active part of the MCU. Anyway, you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok and subscribe to the Mama Saga for more comic book saga breakdowns, Salty Mama style. Thanks for watching, take care, and see you next time.